I want to welcome you to 2021. It's a new year, and a lot of good things are going to move forward. I'd like to welcome Mark Baker and Mayor Sayward to the regional board. Saying that, I got confirmation of quorum, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I adopt the public agenda?
I'd like to move the public agenda with the addition of one item that I would like to put under new business. And that is federal fisheries closure of fish farms.
Okay, under new business.
And Mr. Chair, I sent you last night a list of all of my motions throughout this meeting that I've printed out.
Yep,
okay, so it'll make it easier if I pull those up.
Okay, so your new business item is federal fisheries
closure of fish farms.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions? Okay, move the agenda as amended.
So moved.
And do I have a seconder?
Second.
Joe? Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Carried. Under petitions and delegations, at this time, I'd like to welcome Doug Anastos and Brian Gregg from TELUS Communications for presentation. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to the Regional District Board meeting.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you for having us. So my name's Brian Gregg. I'll start by running through this slide deck that we provided. Do you have that on your screens, or do I need to figure out how to share my desktop here?
We don't have it on our screen, no.
Okay, so if I request control, will that
I think you can share your screen. There's an icon, should be in one of the corners of your screen that will allow you to share your screen.
I see open share tray. Let me see here. Pardon me. I don't see that on my end. Doug, do you see that?
Tom, does Edie have it? She can just load it up.
Edie is able to hear, so assuming if she does have that she can put it up for you.
I see John's replying.
Oh, here it goes, yeah. Oh, she just had it there.
Okay.
Just a sec.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks very much.
I don't have their presentation. I've got motions.
Yeah, Edie, I think I think you've got the wrong screen up.
There we go.
There it is. Perfect. So, yeah, well, I'll keep this very brief. Just at a high level, we wanted to appear as a delegation just to share some information with regards to TELUS's plans to improve its wireless service in the Discovery Islands, namely on Cortes and Quadra Islands. You can go into the next slide, please. So basically, we're going to briefly run you through what our intentions are, the intended service areas, and what the next steps would look like in terms of the required public consultation process. Next slide, please. So basically, TELUS does not have dependable wireless service on Quadra and Cortes Islands, including the surrounding waterways. And so this poses not only an inconvenience for people to remain connected, but also a public safety issue, given that the majority of calls to emergency service responders are now placed through wireless devices, such as cell phones. We've also been receiving for quite a number of years a lot of customer complaints from community members regarding a lack of service. And as you can imagine, with increasing remote working during the COVID-19 pandemic, those complaints have been escalating in your area and really, frankly, across the country. Unfortunately, it's a lot more frustrating now for people if they have not dependable service. As a result, we're looking to install the supporting infrastructure in some strategically located areas to better support your community with dependable service. Next slide, please. So basically, there's 5 locations that we're looking at. So first slide there, it's very high level. We haven't identified specific candidate. Harriet Bay area, Quadra Island. Go to the next slide. We'll go through these quite quickly because we haven't really identified locations. Then the next area there is just to the south of Harriet Bay, where there's some residential areas. Next slide. There's the Whaletown area and Cortez Island. There's another area lacking service. Next slide, please. And then the remaining 2 locations, we have identified specific locations that we'd be interested to consult the community on. First is the Manson's Landing area. As you can see in this aerial photo, TELUS does own a property there, and it's a fairly large lot. We think respectfully cited for a communication tower. And so we're looking to consult on that. And then the next slide, please, is the other location in the Squirrel Cove area where we do have the land rights required to move a proposal forward in terms of a right-of-way with the property owner. And so we're looking to consult on both of those locations. Next slide, please. So this is, I believe, our final slide. Basically, our main intent for being here is to share the information before we move anything forward in a public format for consultation, and to run you through what the process would typically look like. So basically, we're mandated to adhere to the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada default process. And what that entails is basically the 3 steps you can see on this slide. There's notification of area property owners and occupants. We send out packages basically in the mail to people within a radius of 3 times the height of the tower structure. We do, as a second step, a newspaper notice. And then the final step, and I think this is a really important thing to note, is that all of this has to come back to the board for a decision. So us presenting to you today is obviously a very early on preliminary step. And at the end of our consultation process, the board would have every opportunity to consider all of the input we've received and to make a decision, whether or not to grant land use concurrence or support. So we just wanted to let you know of our intentions to consult on those 2 initial locations and to share our overall plans more broadly, and really appreciate your time.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Gregg. Is Mr. Anastos going to say anything at all, or just move on to questions?
Mr. Chair, no, I have nothing further to add, but I'd be happy to answer questions as they come up.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, questions, Director Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I would like to know, I represent an area of Oyster River to the south end of Campbell River and out towards Gold River. I have 5,000 people in my area. Half of my area is served by either TELUS or Shaw. We have high-speed cable to the northern half of my area, but the southern half, which includes the Oyster River settlement area, about 650 homes, York Road, which has about 350 homes, have very poor inadequate service, and they've been phoning and complaining to me steadily. I have an advisory commission, which I can't even have virtual meetings with because some of them live down York Road and in Oyster River, and they cannot connect properly or reliably. So since we already have fiber optic cable going down the Island Highway, I don't know why it would be so difficult for TELUS or Shaw or someone to look at extending the service to my community. Why are you looking at all the little outer islands first that have half my population instead of looking at Area D?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, I can shed some light on that, I think. And just to be clear as well, so Brian and I are representing TELUS's wireless side of the organization. So we can certainly connect with the other parts of TELUS that are responsible for our fiber network and take back some of these requests and get back to you on that. From a wireless perspective, we have made some investments in recent years in Oyster River and south of Campbell River, mainly through what we refer to as small cells. So we are trying to cover the community with wireless solutions. And in fact, we have another site that's just more or less right on the border, actually, of CBRD in Strathcona Regional District that would be providing some service to the north into SRD. This is in the Robinson Lake area as well. So we, but I would like to take back, these questions and get back to you with some more information.
Yes, the combined population of the southern part of Area D, Oyster River, and the area across the river, which is the Robinson Lake area, is around 15,000 people. And it's been identified by the Comox Valley Regional District, the Saratoga area, as a major growth node in their strategic land use planning. So this area is terribly underserved, in my opinion, by wireless, by fiber optic, by, that we've been overlooked and we're getting too big to be continued to be overlooked. And I would really appreciate one of the providers making an offer to provide service. I think it would be a profitable venture for them, considering the number of people that you're dealing with. And, I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Lee. I have Director Anderson.
Thank you. Hi, Director Anderson, the representative from Cortes Island. Thank you, Brian and Doug, for your presentation. One question to you and then one to staff that I think is very relevant to the consultation work that you're intending to undertake. Sorry, I missed the first couple of minutes of your presentation, so if you covered this, my apologies. Are you seeking external funding, or is it appropriate? Perhaps it's not even appropriate for you to share if you are, and therefore are these timelines of any kind of urgency? And then my question, I guess through to staff or to both TELUS and staff, is my understanding, in addition to the community outreach and consultation that you've outlined, and thank you for that, that at least on Cortes Island, towers require rezoning, and that actually was news to me. I thought that that they were exempt, but in detail, look, my staff has determined otherwise, that indeed they need rezoning. So A, have I got that right through to staff? And B, how would that mesh with your public outreach and consultation process? Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, yes, Director Anderson is correct on the rezoning of the properties.
Thank you.
So that just adds
an
extra timeline complexity to things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, through the chair, I can address those questions that you have there. So just on the first one, so external funding, we don't have plans at this point in time to apply for external funding. So this is a TELUS funded initiative. As you're likely aware, there are quite a few external funding opportunities out there. So it may be something that we look at in the future. But the main opportunities that are out there for the short term, in response to COVID relief, are there's very aggressive timelines with building out that infrastructure under those. So that this type of work would not fit into those funding projects. And then just a note on rezoning as well. So I understanding that local governments have different policies, protocols in place. TELUS, as being federally regulated, rezoning is not something that we seek or we require from a federal regulation perspective. But it's something that we understand. As I say, there's different requirements at play, and it's something that we can talk to staff further about. So.
I haven't been made aware by staff that that's an optional process. I'd certainly like to dig into that. And is there a rezoning requirement on Quadra or other areas as well for towers, or is Cortez exclusive that way? Does staff know?
Yeah, there's a requirement for rezoning on both Quadra and Cortez.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Anderson. I have Director Abram.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I am the representative for the Discovery Islands, where you're talking about, and Melba for Cortez. So between the two of us, we're basically talking about the whole area that you're talking about. I've been working with TELUS since 1990 on baby steps in progressing our connectivity, whether it be by broadband or wireless or cell towers or whatever. And I've achieved quite a bit over that time, but our service is still terrible, as you both probably know. I deal with Shay Draper on a regular basis about how terrible it is. But at the same time, you're coming forward with a cell tower proposal for both of our areas, Nova's and mine. And these have not been met with open arms in the past, and you are required to have licensing, and you have your process, three-part process that you said you have to do, that basically was notification of your concurrence, et cetera, but as was given to you by Director Anderson, the comment that it does require rezoning. That was confirmed by our Chief Administrative Officer, David Leach. It does require rezoning. That means you're going to have to go through a public process on Quadra Island or Reed Island or Cortez Island to rezone the property as to whether or not the land use will be allowed. You may be able to get a license, but you still have to have a land use permit in order to be able to put that tower up. You've mentioned a number of times in your flyover with the maps that you haven't picked a spot in all these different places, but yet I'm receiving calls from very elderly people on Quadra Island in their late 70s that are receiving calls from your consultants offering them contracts, 30-year contracts at $1,000 per month to be able to put a tower up on their properties. So you've obviously picked some based on, I assume, their geographic situation, how far they can reach, et cetera, and what the radius will be from the tower. But you have actually gone as far as going to these people, offering them basically large sums of money. I mean, that's like, with the 30 years, $360,000 for just for the site. So, that's concerning to me, that's sort of jumping the gun before you have come to us like you are today, which I appreciate, and telling us what your plans are and where it is you're planning to serve, and then moving forward to the consultation process through your, mandated 3 points, but also to get to the point of public hearing, which is where where we'll hit the road as to whether or not the tower will go up. So I just want to be really clear on that, Quadra Island has not been an easy sell in the past. We went through this with Cantal Rogers with a 350-foot tower, which you, I'm sure, know. And a couple of years ago, I managed to get TELUS to hang some equipment on it, which they were unable to do prior to that. And they have done it, and our service is still absolutely abominable. So, we need the service, but we also need public approval for that service. And cell towers are always a contentious issue in the islands as far as the radiation, et cetera, put out by cell towers. So anyway, just let you know that, and thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Director Abram. Director Cornfield. Director Cornfield, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Chair. I was muted. Two quick questions. Thank you for your presentation. Being a boater, having cell phone connection in the adjacent waters is very important, and it's considered a safety issue. How does the signal get to the tower? Wi-Fi, does it rely on, say, a submarine cable and then overland?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so through the chair, there's two ways actually to get the signal back into the internet, basically from the cell site, and those two ways are a direct fiber connection or through what's known as a wireless connection through a dish antenna. And in these cases on the islands, TELUS does have existing fiber that runs across the island, so it would be fiber fed directly to the cell site, and they would broadcast the signal from there.
Okay, and is it 5G or is it 2.4 or 2.6 or whatever?
Right. Yeah. So it's right now we're deploying 4G LTE service. Each generation of technology, there's been 5 now. We're entering into 5G. And it's a transitionary period right now. So our network will transition over to 5G in the next several years. It's going to look a lot like, in a rural area like this, it'll look an awful lot like 4G. It's going to be essentially the same type of service. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Do I have any other first-time speakers? If not, I've got Director Abram.
Okay.
Hearing.
All right. Thank you once again, Mr. Chair.
A question, not comments. Let's have a question.
Sorry?
Go ahead with your question.
Okay, my question was, you just commented to Director Cornfield concerning the cell phone connectivity via water. That, of course, is something that all of us on the water use occasionally, but it is certainly not something that the Canadian Coast Guard radio stations are in favor of, because it eliminates their broad connectivity via VHF up and down the coast via repeater towers. So they cannot home in on, they can't triangulate where somebody might be. So it's a 4-second cousin to VHF radio, but appreciated. I use it, others use it. The question also goes back to Director Cornfield's 5G comment. 5G is being opposed worldwide by people because of the power of 5G, and I'd just like to know how soon you're thinking that you might transition to 5G, because that's going to be a problem.
Through the chair, and I should maybe clarify my earlier comments on what 5G will look like in a rural setting, and add some more information to that. But what I would like to say is that 5G, we are finding there are concerns with 5G technology, power output as you mentioned, is something that comes up. The frequency is another thing. In an urban area, 5G frequencies in time will be quite high on the spectrum relative to what we're using right now. In a rural area, really what we're looking at is using the same or similar frequencies, and power output would be similar as well. In fact, what we're finding with different advancements in technology is that it actually becomes smarter. So the antennas become more efficient with their power output, and we'll find that as time goes on, each antenna will connect to users in a more efficient way, a more deliberate way. But at the end of the day, 5G is not inherently unsafe, as a technology. And in fact, on a cell tower with the antennas up in the air quite high, even at the base of the tower, with 4G or 5G, you're hundreds and even thousands of times below the safety standards. And even at a fairly close distance to the tower, we find that it can drop off exponentially. So there's really no reason to be concerned in relation to the health and safety standards that we comply with.
Okay, thank you.
Outside that radius that are the concern.
Pardon, I missed that last question.
Did you have a question, Director Abram?
No, I'm just saying, what about the people you're talking about at the base of the tower, close to the tower, but it's the people that are a mile away from the tower that are actually where the signal is actually hitting the ground, or so to say. That's where the penetration issue comes in. And, if 5G has been talked about with remote automobiles, it will probably be talked about with remote boats. And, are we there yet? I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Director Lee? Director Lee, you have a question? Okay, I'll go to Director Anderson. You had a question.
Thank you. Just a matter of follow-up on the rezoning. I just wanted to get really clear from TELUS's perspective. Are you intending on applying for rezoning, given that you've been advised by our planning staff and CEO that that's required? Your comment earlier led some concern that you thought that you were covered under federal regulation. Is it your intention on applying for rezoning on these sites before moving forward?
Through the chair, yeah, it's something that I think we'll have to talk to further with staff. I have to say that it's highly unusual for these types of areas to have a rezoning requirement, but also understanding that the islands are very sensitive, and there's a certain it's quite different in the Discovery Islands. I think at the end of the day, what we are seeking is the support of the board, and that's something, if we don't have the support of the board, we would not be proceeding with these sites, right? So, and when we look at what that means for us, at least, it is that land use concurrence. So I think when we look at requirements and process, if we don't have that, then that's, there's ways to proceed, but that's not something that we do essentially in these types of cases if we don't have the support of the board. But our experience, like I say, for the most part, really, is that utilities are permitted. So it's something that we'll have to take a closer look into.
And I certainly, in my first read of the bylaw, said, utilities are permitted, and it wasn't until I had some communication with ONACO that there was a specific reference to towers that required rezoning. So my follow-up then is, would you then be the lead on the rezoning applications on behalf of the landowners in the case where you don't own the land outright, or would you be expecting the landowners to take that lead?
Through the chair, once again, just as a general comment with landowners and this type of infrastructure, TELUS is the proponent, and it's our proposal to provide service to the community. So as far as the process and everything that's involved in it, TELUS is really leads that process. So.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I've just got Director Lee wrote in a question here. Is TELUS aware of the York Hill and in Oyster River has the elevation to reach a very large area, including Oyster River, Comox Valley, and others.
That's something that I can take a look into, and I think, and we'll take it back to our team as well.
Okay.
I think as a first step, though, just that, as to what we can offer right now, we do have that proposal by Robinson Lake, and what I can do is provide some more information to the regional district on that as well after, because that's an immediate service improvement that we're looking into, and then we can look at just some of these other areas as well, as part of our future plans.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any other questions. I have one. So if the towers are up, in your locations, is this going to increase the connectivity speed for internet?
Yeah. So on that question, the primary objective intent of these towers, of these cell towers, is to provide cell service. And that's what we've been hearing for years from the community, and we do want to respond to that. And that's how they're designed, in effect, to provide cell service to communities and waterways. And then with TELUS's network these days, we do offer high-speed internet access over our cell sites. So just to get at that question, through our Smart Hub product, so that is an offering as well. So yeah, the answer is it would, but that's not really the main intent here in terms of this this investment. So
Okay, excellent. I don't see any other questions. So I thank you both for your presentation today. Appreciate very much. And I'm assuming you'll hear back from us. Well, I have CEO, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you. Okay, so I've got Director Lee is moving receipt of the report. Do I have a seconder?
Second,
Thank
Director
you.
Colburn.
Thank you, Director Colburn. Is anyone opposed? Seeing, hearing none, call carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.
I will move that the minutes of the regular meeting of the regional board held December 4th, 2020 be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Director Colburn.
Director Adams. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call carried.
maybe we can just wait till our guests exit the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, look,
All right. Could you repeat that, Dave?
I just said, Mr. Chair, wait for the guests to leave the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I think, as you can see, well, actually, stop my screen. Hang on a sec, guys. As the CEO mentioned in the chat, smart hubs. So that's why I asked the question about the internet connectivity. Smart hubs will eliminate any chance of our funding opportunities for last mile connection. So it's something we have to think about as we move forward. Anyways, under F, moving business rising from the minutes.
Yes, I have one issue.
Director Lee.
Thank you. I just want to ask staff if they're going to or have already met the deadline of February 12th to submit the corporate officer certificate to the MFA for the new Campbell River Library financing. I just want to make sure we don't lose track of that and make sure we get it in on time.
CEO.
Mr. Chairman, that was submitted quite some time ago, so yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
so financing will go through MFA and by the Feb 12th deadline.
We have not missed any deadlines in respect of that project, correct?
Good, thanks.
Thank you. Director Anderson, you had a question?
No, I wasn't going to bring up the Smart Hub discussion because I assume that was an in-camera one, and I'm just flagging it that I think we need to have this in-camera discussion, and I'm trusting that staff and the chair will make that available to us.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't think it's really an in-camera discussion. I can quickly address it. What happens is you take, as he said, you take a fiber, you hook it to a tower, and you project out a wireless signal. TELUS then puts smart hubs out there. which provide internet access. And the danger to us on the Connected Coast and the Last Mile is that once they do that in that area, it meets the 5010 download standard and eliminates the area's availability for last mile funding because they're a quote served community then.
So my question is simply, is there any way, because clearly we're interested in having both internet connectivity in our communities as well as cell phone connectivity, is there any way of TELUS providing only cell phone connectivity and not jeopardizing the hub? And I don't expect an answer to that now, but I think that might be worth pursuing.
I'll give you a quick answer. They can, but I don't think they will.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else under business riders for minutes? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Under public consideration, BC Authority candidate interviews. Motion to receive report. Director Adams, second by Director Evans. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll pass this over to Tom.
Mr. Yates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as noted in the report, we're suggesting a certain process for conducting the interviews, and that will be one interviewee at a time. And I think if that is okay by the board, then you as the chair could then call upon the first candidate to introduce himself and provide a bit of a background.
Any objection from the board?
No.
Okay, thank you. So do we have our first candidate online with us?
I will ask Edith. I do know that she will contact both candidates who confirm they would be available for today's meeting, and I will rely on her to advise if there's anyone who has missed signing into the meeting or not.
Hi, this is Betty speaking. Edie would like me to say that Mr. Tremblay has had a meeting invite sent, and she has contacted him via the phone.
Okay. Director, we had a question while we wait.
Yeah, I understood that we were going somewhere. I got the idea that we were going to be having the interviews in camera and have this vote or discussion in camera.
CEO?
Yep.
Simple answer is no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have, good afternoon, we have Mr. Tremblay has joined the meeting.
Okay, I'm going to hang up the phone here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tremblay. Please introduce yourself and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, hi. Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I take it. I can only see one person right now. Is that what I'm supposed to see?
You can probably see our CEO, Mr. Leach.
Okay. Oh,
That's
there's
okay.
another. Yeah, I'm a resident of Campbell River. I've been here about the house in 2006, something like that. Retired from a career with the Yukon government in the Yukon, living mostly in Whitehorse and also in Haines Junction, and was in management positions for most of my career while located there, much of which was in the transportation field. So I've acted as the Deputy Minister of Community and Transportation Services. I've been a Deputy Minister of Community Services and president of a few of the Crown corporations there. I really do enjoy working, serving the public in various fashions. I've done it through my working career. I've done it through athletics, and I've done it through various types of social services and activities, like the Lions or even golf clubs and things. So I feel like I am a person who likes to contribute to the community. Since becoming a resident in Campbell River, I've been retired the whole time. I have done a few callbacks and things like that. But I now feel like I've had a good break. I've gotten to know the area quite well. And I feel like I'd like to contribute somewhat. My experiences from my reading of the legislation for the Ferries Authority and BC Ferries itself, I feel that my experience is consistent with what you're looking for. Sometimes from some of the materials I've read, it would appear that a legal background would be even more beneficial, but by reviewing the current membership of the Ferries Authority, I see that they have a lot of people with legal backgrounds. So mine might be a really good fit if I'm what you're looking for. I think the resume pretty much gives the different types of jobs I've done. So I just as soon open it to you to see if there are particular areas that you would like to see me delve into further.
Okay, thank you. We really don't usually go through a question period with the candidate.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is an opportunity for the board to interview if they wish.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do I have any questions from the directors? Director Anderson.
Thank you, sir. I would just thank you for your background and your application and your will to serve. When it comes to ferries specifically, I'm just wondering if you would care to share with the board anything that you observe with the ferry system that you would like to perhaps address, any projects that you would like to see undertaken, any particular values that you bring to the ferry system in terms of how you feel it serves or could serve better our communities. Thank you.
Okay, with specific reference to the ferry service, I see it as integral to life, to industry, to activities on the islands and the islands and the coast. You know, when we get into the Powell River area and the Sunshine Coast, it's just as dependent on the ferry service as we are, or the islands surrounding Vancouver Island. So I look at the ferry service more like our highway than I do as a transitional type of operation. So I think it's important that those who manage it see it as a highway, see it as an absolutely necessary and integral part of our everyday operations, and have to look at it also from the economics of operating businesses or living in locations where you are dependent upon that mode of transportation. Whereas I find individuals who aren't as dependent on the ferry system, tourists, for example, or folks who might live inland or central BC, would feel that it's not as important to them to see the ferry system funded and supported in a way that it's regular transportation. Whereas when it's something that affects you, it's important that it be seen as regular transportation and get the kind of support that's required. Specific experiences in terms of ferries, when I was in charge of highways in the Yukon, we did have some ferries, but they were more for transits across rivers and transits in terms of some seasonal roads where we couldn't justify building bridges. But even in those particular experiences, it was important that we had frequency of transits as opposed to 1 or 2 a day. So it was better to have a smaller unit that provided more regular transportation as if it's a regular highway than a big unit that would provide service 1 or 2 a day. The same was true with aviation. And I was the director of airports for some time in Yukon, and then had aviation in my portfolio when I had all of transportation. It was important for us in a location like the Yukon to have regular transits. So it wasn't necessarily best to have the biggest unit. It was important that you could move on any time of the day, and certainly that businesses had good access beginning of the day, end of the day. So
Okay.
I believe those experiences are transferable to work on the ferry system. Specific to marine, one of the areas that I had to focus responsibility in the Yukon on the marine system was we had a particular problem or particular difficulty because our marine transportation up the coast had to go through Alaska. And when you transport goods in and out of the country, you have to also become familiar with the legislation from the other jurisdiction. And so a majority of goods came to the Yukon via a barge system from Vancouver.
Yeah.
But it transited through Alaska, and we had to ensure that it was the Jones Act and the Coast Trading Act were all respected. So I got a lot of experience dealing with the marine companies in ensuring that this legislation was suitable to meet the needs of our transportation of goods.
Thank Mr. Trumbull. I'm afraid I'll cut you off there. I'm afraid.
Sorry.
I've got another question, and it's Director Abram.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tremblay. Nice to meet you. I'm just wondering, you've been here since '06, you said, I think, and I just wondered if you've, been following the goings on with the coastal communities and ferries over, sailings, price cuts, et cetera. And secondly, you mentioned the coastal aspect of it, and you did mention the provincial aspect, but I just wanted to know if you are aware of the fact that the provincial ferry system as it is, I'm glad you mentioned it as a highway system, transportation system. Are you aware of the fact that it actually contributes 1/3 of the GDP to the entire province, which in my mind and many others at the Union of BC Municipalities think of it as being a provincial issue. So, if you were to be selected, I would hope that you would be not just advocating for individual coastal areas, but for our entire provincial government profits from this service. And we need to have a viable marine transportation system within our highway system. So, that's what I would hope you would bring to it.
Okay,
Yeah, I might even have a bias that would make me more focused on ensuring inland folks recognize it that much. My experience has been working in remote locations. And so I have found, and I can't say that that's the situation with the ferry operations because I'm not close enough to it and I wasn't able to review minutes and those types of things. But I know that working from remote locations like the Yukon or like the northern parts of provinces, it's very hard to get your needs recognized to the same extent as some of the higher populated areas or more central areas. So I would automatically, I think, bring that bias to the board and ensure that the needs of the businesses and residents of the island were recognized.
Perfect. Thank you.
First and foremost.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I'd like to thank you, Mr. Tremblay, for your presentation of yourself and your interest on the BC Ferry Authority. And
We'll be in
Um,
touch.
we'll be in touch. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for your time and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Edith, do you have the next individual lined up? And maybe we'll, when he comes up, we'll put a limit of maybe 5 minutes on this.
Yes, this is Betty again. Edie has communicated with Mr. Wilson on the phone and has sent him an invite.
Okay.
Brad, maybe let him know that there's a 5-minute limit on.
Yeah. No Mr. Wilson yet?
Hi, this is Betty. I'm just
Yeah.
letting you know that Edith is providing some assistance to Mr. Wilson right now, and he'll be on
Okay.
soon.
Obviously, we're having technical problems, are we? Go ahead, Director Abel.
Okay, I was kind of hoping we'd have the applicant, but,
Well, what's your question about?
okay, my question is about, although Jim Wilson, I've known him and worked with him for 30 years. Although he is from the area, is a band member of Cape Mudge. He has openly, and this is, no secret, openly in the media criticized the SRD on numerous
Okay.
occasions.
Okay, Mr. Wilson's about ready to come in.
Okay, well, I guess I can ask him directly if he could please add me back to the list.
Okay, and just in the interest of time, if we can make the questions fairly quick.
I see Director Lee is saying Mr. Wilson's, oh, he's trying to probably climb in.
Yeah, other people and their videos don't have any impact on him.
No. So, CEO, at this time, can we move forward on the agenda, or I guess probably not, eh?
Well, I mean, if we can't connect with them, I'm not sure we're going to sit and wait forever. Tom, can we table this and come back, and Edie can schedule something for later with
This is Betty interjecting. Edith is on the phone with IT trying to resolve an issue.
Yeah, we don't want to sit around.
So what we could do, if you wish, is to move on with the agenda on the understanding that the board will come back to this item once Mr. Wilson is able to join. That is an option if you wish to look at that.
I think that would be advisable.
So moved.
Moved by Director Cornfield, second.
Second.
Second. Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
You're opposed.
Abram, opposed.
Okay. Anyone else opposed? Seeing none, carried. Let's move on. There's no notice of motions. Under I, Chair's report. First thing I want to quickly bring up, and we're having this issue today right here. When we're having debates, discussions, questions to delegates, I would appreciate all directors, have a couple minutes to speak your thoughts and get into a question. Going on for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes without a question will not be tolerated. I'll cut it off because we got to move forward. Second, on the committee external reports, can I have a motion to receive the report? Moved by Director Adams. Seconder.
Second.
Director Lee. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, carried. On item B, the appointments outlined in December 16th report from the chair be confirmed with, I have a couple amendments. The amendments will be the Director Cornfield will be the Wee Wee Kai Gum with Director Evans as the alternate, and Director Abram will be Wee Wee Kai with Director Moglove as the alternate. I have a motion to do.
So move the amendments.
Director Lee, seconded by Director Adams. Any other discussion? Seeing none, carried. Item C, Calgunwood current appointment, Strathcona Gardens Commission be extended to December 31st, 2021. Motion by Director Davis, second by
Lee.
Director Evans. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that motion needs to be made by a representative from Camp River or electoral area D.
So
All right.
moved.
Oh,
Thank you. I got Director Evans and I got Director Adams then. Thank you
Director
very
Lee,
much.
second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Anyone opposed? Carried. And item D, payment and meeting and remuneration travel expenses be authorized for director appointments made pursuant to the December 16, 2020 report from the chair, except were provided by external organization. Moved by Director Kerr, second by Director Lee. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And item E, the payment of the meeting remuneration travel expenses be authorized for participation by Director Abram in the Fisheries, Oceans Canada, Marine Fish, Finfish Agriculture Management Advisory Committee, and not otherwise provided. Moved by Director Wally, second by Director Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none, carried.
Mr. Wilson is logging on right now.
Okay. And I've just heard from media that Mr. Wilson is logging on as we speak. So with that, we'll go back to.
We're finished with section I, are we not, Chair?
We are.
So it's a good time to go back.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Wilson is on the call.
Mr. Wilson, are you here, sir?
As he's joined the meeting.
Mr. Wilson, can you hear me?
His mic is muted.
Mr. Wilson, can you unmute your mic, please?
How's that?
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Welcome to the board meeting. And at this time, I'd like to give you 5 minutes to, or a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, and then we'll have a question from the directors if they have any. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, I know some of the people that are in the meeting. I'm James Wilson. I'm from Weewiki Nation at Cape Mudge. I'm 2 weeks from retiring. I spent my whole career working for Cape Mudge. I've served on numerous boards of directors, from First Nations Health Authority to Youth District Council, Intertribal Health Authority. I've served on boards provincially and federally. I have an extensive history in First Nation politics. I've been a governance officer and administrator my whole career. My formal education includes a Bachelor of Arts from University of Victoria. Graduated in '79 with a political science major and a psychology minor. I've lived on Cape Mudge lands for my whole life, except for the years that I was away at university. I saw this opening for this position in the local newspaper, and it caught my eye, and I thought I would like to experience working on a board of directors that's outside of First Nations. And I do have a lot to offer. As I said, my governance is my career. I've put numerous organizations together on a provincial level and local and regional. I served on board of director as an ex officio member back in early 90s. Jim Abrams would remember me. I'm not sure who's all on your board right now, but and Noba would know me.
Yeah.
Andy knows me. That's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Do I have any questions from the directors?
Abram.
Director Abram, do you have a question?
Yes, I'll be quick. Jim, hello, welcome. As you mentioned, we've worked together for, more than 30 years. And we've been longtime friends and colleagues, and I'd love to support you, but I still haven't gotten over your previous comments about local government and not recognizing local government. So I'm just wondering why you would want to be representing local governments on this board.
That was a question I wanted to clarify with the board, is what the role and duties and responsibilities of this position are, and who are they to? I mean, I've been part of local government and worked with local government throughout my career. I don't see representing local government as an issue, but I'm not sure if I'm addressing your question.
Well, partially, yes. I'm just wondering, you have worked with local government a little bit when we were at Comox Strathcona Regional District, but now, your comments more recently in the last couple of years have been not very friendly to local government. So I just wondered, this is not local government. This is BC Ferries authority that you're actually going to be there, but you're going to be representing us as local governments who represent constituents, including all of your constituents in your own, Weewiki Nation. So, first and foremost, I have to be concerned about the people that go on to that board need to be on our side as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree with you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Director Anderson's asked if she'd defer other directors, but she would like to ask the same question that she asked the last applicant. So go ahead, Director Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Welcome, and thank you for your application. Just on Director Abrams' comment, I don't actually see you as representing the regional district. I see it as our job at the regional district to put forward names, and it's up to the ferry authority to make those decisions. But the question I put to the last applicant that I would love to hear your answer to as well is just with regards to ferries specifically, can you share with us any of your views about the existing ferry system, how you see it working and serving our communities, how you could see that improving? Is there anything in particular that you would like to bring from your perspective and advocacy about ferries in particular? Thank you.
One of the concerns I've always had, I grew up on Quadra. I know the ferry system. I've known when it's been good and when it's been bad. There has to be, in my mind, there has to be a balance between costs and direct services that are going to benefit the inhabitants of the islands. When I say this, I mean that we cannot determine what the ferry system is going to be based solely on budgets. The idea of having 2 ferries running seriously delighted me because that worked so well when they had it the first time. And then to go to a bigger ferry that still didn't serve the people well enough on Quadra and Cortez, that's what I mean. We have to find a balance. And that's what I would advocate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions.
Yes, you do.
Oh, sorry, hand up, Director Cornfield.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Hi, Charles.
What strengths or expertise do you feel that you would take to the board of the BC Ferries Corporation that others couldn't?
I have extensive knowledge in governance. I'm a good communicator advocating finding solutions, inclusive solutions. I think outside the box and stay within the parameters of whatever guidelines or rules are there governing the process. So it's knowledge, it is experience. I think one of my bigger assets is my ability to find solutions thinking outside of the box.
Okay, thank you. One last question, Hope. What would you see, like the BC Ferries is one of the largest ferry services in the world in terms of vessels, different runs. So it's more than just a single area. So what would your priorities be in terms of representation on the board? Like, is there things that you would like to see change? And how does it fit into the big picture of servicing not just this area, but all up and down the coast?
Well, that's a very good question, Charlie. One of the disadvantages I have in trying to answer that question is I don't understand the rest of the province. I would certainly do my own assessment of the ferries, the services throughout the coast, and assess for myself where there are issues. I would certainly research the background of whatever issues, local issues people would have up and down the coast, and try to address them in a rational and objective way.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I don't see any other questions for Mr. Wilson. So, Mr. Wilson, I thank you very much for your time today and your interest. And the staff will be getting back to you.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Guys and ladies.
Bye now.
Bye.
Once I have confirmation Mr. Wilson's gone, we'll move on to B.
Doesn't seem to be signing off.
Edith, can you assist Mr. Wilson in his sign off, please?
Oh, there, I think he is. Right. I think he's gone.
Okay, thank you. Director Abram?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're on B.
Yes,
Okay, I'd like to move that Mr. Tremblay be submitted as the Strathcona Regional District nominee for the
Second.
appointment of the Area Authority.
Second.
we have Seconder Director Cornfield. Any other discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, a call carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we'll go back down. Consent calendar, nothing. Anything under committee chairs? There are no external reports. Under M, staff reports. First report, item 1, non-medical cannabis application. Motion receive report.
So moved.
Director Cornfield.
Second,
Second, Director Lee. CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Item B.
move B.
Second.
Moved by Director Colburn, Director
Lee.
Lee, second. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say that all the preparation has been done in our zoning bylaws to allow this. We received no objection when we put forward the zoning bylaw amendments to recognize cannabis as a legal product. And their proponent is looking forward to moving. He's been in they've been in a long regulatory process, and our letter of no objection will go a long way to helping them get their store underway.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item number 2, Advisory Planning Commission appointments, electorate B. Motion to receive reports.
So moved.
Second.
You, Director Anderson, Director Abram. Anything to add, CEO?
No, Mr. Chair, we asked the area directors to populate these before the meeting, and as you can see, they have.
Thank you very much. Anything else? On receipt, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, following persons be appointed. Electoral Area B, Advisory Planning Commission for 2021. Moved by
I would move.
Director Anderson, thank you. Seconder, Director Wally. Anything to add?
No, I don't think the APC has met in the past year. So I have not actually reached out to each individual, but I have had no indication that these people are not willing to serve. So I think for the purposes of reappointment, this is sufficient.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Anderson. No further questions? Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 3, Advisory Planning Commission appointments for electoral area D.
Move
Motion to
receipt.
receive and report.
Move receipt.
Second.
Seconder, Director Wally. Anything to add, CEO?
And the same for Area D. The elected area director has populated the report with her APC members.
Excellent, thank you. I see nobody else. I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Call carried. Move B.
I'd move B, all the appointments. In
Director
Area
Lee,
D.
thank you. Director Wally seconded. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Director Abram.
Yes, if I could just ask, I believe Jordan Hargrave was an employee of the regional district. I think he's an employee of the CVRD. I'm not sure. Does that have an effect on
No.
his ability to be on here?
CEO says no, it does not.
Okay, fine.
Kim?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
Director Lee,
Mr. Lee?
I did contact each and every one of these APC appointee recommendations and talked to them. And they're all very willing to serve the regional district on the APC. Similar to Area B, we haven't been able to have many meetings last year due to the pandemic. But if there's a way to get some kind of meetings virtually, if they're needed, all of them are willing to help. And Jordan Hargrave, I actually recruited him to my APC before he was working for the SRD, and he was awesome on our APC. He was always eager and hardworking and respected, and I'm really glad to have all of these people.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 4, moved by Director Colburn.
Second.
Director Evans. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing yet.
Joe? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, special meeting committee of the whole be scheduled for Thursday, January 28th, 2021 to hold a joint workshop with the Kaiget Chicklets First Nations regarding the KCF and officially joining SRD. Moved by Director Lee, second by Director Evans. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question, Director Abram.
Yeah, just is there a time anticipated?
Our last meeting, Mr. Chair, was 10 till 2, and we're anticipating a similar setup.
10 to 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jill? I don't see any other questions. Call question. Anyone opposed? See none, call it carried. Item B, sorry, I read that one already. Item 5, COVID-19 related infrastructure grant application. Motion receive report.
Move receipt.
Director Lee, second.
Second.
That was Director
Abram.
Anderson move.
Sorry, Director Anderson. Anything to add, HCO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll let Renee speak to this if you'd like.
Hello, Chair Unger and board members. We have put forth this request to apply for the Quaz park upgrades as being eligible and ready, shovel ready for the Resilience Infrastructure Grant application. It does meet all the requirements of the grant and has the reasonability to be completed by the end of December as the grant requests or the grant requires.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any questions?
Just one, when would we likely know whether we received the grant or not? What's the timeline?
The grant application is due January 27th, so we probably wouldn't know until perhaps April if we're successful at getting the grant.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. No further questions? Excellent, thank you. Any question, or sorry, anyone opposed?
Just a question, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, go ahead.
Okay, just on the last paragraph where it says the board support the project and permit associated ineligible costs. Those are from Area B, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Director Evans, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I was going to wait till part B, but maybe just to ask a question now. In that paragraph before the recommendation, it talks about also a $10,000 potential ineligible expense.
So I just want a clarification, and I can wait till B if it's more appropriate, but just clarification, we're talking about a $40,000 capital, but are we also not talking about a $10,000 operating amount as well?
CO?
No, I think that $10,000 is embedded in the up to the 40,000 for an eligible cost. So it's a project that Area B had in their Parks Capital Plan. And we don't anticipate there's actually going to be any ineligible costs, but should there be, that there's some money that was already allocated in Area B Parks to pay for that. So that $10,000, as I understand, is within the 40,000 ineligible limit.
Okay, so 40,000 capital, it was specific to capital, which is why I brought up the question. So the 10,000 then that talks about ineligible expenses that would be operating types of expenses. That's all just part of that
Yeah, more
2020
staff.
budget area. Okay.
Yeah, more staff
thank
time,
you.
ineligible costs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on receipt? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, carried. Item B, the grant application for the construction costs.
So moved, Director Anderson.
Director Johnson, second by Director Evans. Any further discussion? Seeing none, carried. Item 6, Strathcona Gardens Community Energy System and Energy Efficiency Upgrades Project. Motion received.
Move
Director
receive.
Evans.
Second.
Director Adams seconds. CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just an amendment to the agreement we have for the energy upgrade system that we need board's authorization for. So we've basically done all the work we can. There's a small remainder of work, but that would be conflict with our rec rate project expansion that if and when we're successful for that, we'll do the work then. So we've asked just for an extension to the agreement that we're not going to do that work right now because we would put it up and then have to take it right down. That doesn't make any sense. So we've just requested and then granted an extension to that agreement.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions on receipt. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B.
Move the recommendation.
Director Adams moves it. Director Lee seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 7, Electric ARC Integrate Sustainability Plan. Motion to receive report.
Receipt.
Director Abram, Director Colburn seconded. Thank you. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, this is just a required board authority to extend the project. This is an Area C planning grant that we received. Due to COVID and the community consultation that was associated with it, we're requiring to extend the term of the agreement and needing the board's authority for that.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the chair and corporate officer authorized to execute the proposed amendment.
So moved.
Director Abram, second by Director Lee. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 8, letter of support Quad Island Health Society. Motion to receive.
Motion to receive.
Director Abram, second by Director Wally. CEO, anything to add?
Just something quickly, Mr. Chair, similar to the grant we're applying for Quas Park there is a group on Quadra Island that would like to make application to a similar program, and it's just looking for SRD support, which the area director is in support of that, and staff see no reason why not to support the project.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, the letter of support being provided to Quad Island Health Society.
Move item B.
Director Abrams, second by Director Kerr. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, we'll call it carried. On the bylaws, first bylaw, number 9495, the CP 3C09, Shelnick, motion to receive report. Director Lee, thank you. Second by Director Colburn. CEO, anything to add?
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to move a referral motion back to the Electoral Area Services Committee. Since we as a committee have not had an opportunity to study the changes or discuss the implications with staff, and that is the place that our CAO tells us that we need to do that.
Okay.
I would like
That's good. You moved your motion, second by Director Wally.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you take the vote on the receipt and then you could decide to defer it.
Yep.
To
Thank you,
Pete.
sir. Okay. Any question on receipt? Seeing none, call carried. Director Abram, you have a subsequent?
I would like to refer this back to the Electoral Areas Services Committee, since we have not had an opportunity to study the changes or discuss the implications with our staff.
Okay, and a second by Director Wally. Okay. For I would assume this is all elected area directors only. Call question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
yes, typically I believe this would be the electoral areas only.
Thank you. So elected areas only. Question has been called. Is anyone opposed for referral motion? Seeing none's carried. Referred back. Thank you. Second item, bylaw 412-413, OCP amendment for rezoning application. Motion received report.
Okay, move report.
Thank you. Seconder by Director Colburn. CEO, anything to add?
No, nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B.
Move B, that bylaw number 412 be given second reading, and just one
Yep.
quick.
And Director Wally seconded. Thank you. Any discussion?
Quick comment, if I could, please. And that is just that this rezoning is a direct result of the fact that we extended our sewer system, and it will certainly add to helping the people that are paying huge costs for annual operating costs. So this is what we need, is we need more people to be able to actually do some development on their property, and these folks have taken it on.
Thank you. Question on item B, any for area directors only? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item C, the bylaw 413 be given second reading.
Move C.
Second by Director Lee. Don't see any discussion, any questions? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item D.
Move item D as printed.
Director Abrams, second by Director Wally. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 3, bylaw 418, Surgeon Narrows Wharf license. Motion to receive report.
Move receipt.
Seconder. Director Wally. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. On to B, the bylaw 418B being
Move
Surgeon
item B.
Narrows listings. Director Abrams, second by Director Colburn. No questions? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. On to 0, correspondence. Motion receive. 1 to 5.
Motion to receive 1 to 5, with the exception of, I would like to see the fisheries for communities item pulled, please,
Q,
which is number 4.
Q. Do I have a seconder on that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to item number, item number 4.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, you have called to vote on the motion.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tom.
I'm sorry, there was a motion to receive items 1 through 3 and number 5, and
Okay.
there are I don't believe there's been a vote taken on that yet.
Okay, thank you. Can I call question? Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you. So then we'll go on to item number 4, the fisheries communities. Motion receive.
Move receipt.
Moved by Director Adams, second by Director Lee. Any questions, discussion?
I have a motion to put forward after we receive.
Okay.
Director Lee.
It's been received.
Thank you. Okay.
Is there any discussion? Director Lee?
So have we received it?
Yes, we have.
Yep.
Okay, so I sent Edith a list of motions printed out, so
They're
she's
on-
put them up there.
Yeah, they're on the screen.
Okay,
Can you make them a little bit
Okay,
bigger
so I-
there?
There. Q? Okay, so the motion,
I would move the motion.
okay, motion of the fisheries and communication report, recommendation be supported by the SRD, and that the SRD send a letter to support the BC Premier and federal ministers with additional copies sent to those listed on page 3. Motion
Second.
by Director Lee, second by Director
Second, Abram.
Abram. Any discussion? Seeing none. Call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll call it carried.
Somebody's got a mic going nuts.
Yeah,
Thank
there we
you.
go. Thank you. Okay, that's it for correspondence. Under members' reports, Marine Plan Partnership for North Pacific Coast. Motion receive the report.
Move receipt.
Thank you. Second, Director Davis, thank you. Anything to add, Director Abram?
Just that this is a draft report and you will be receiving a more fulsome report, slightly more fulsome, after the meeting.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any questions of Director Abram? Seeing none, call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 2, Coastal Community Network. Motion received the report.
Move receipt of the report.
Thank you, Director Abram. Director Evans seconded. Anything to add, Director Abram?
Yeah, just that letter that we just passed, before we got into members' reports, the correspondence regarding support for fisheries. This Coastal Community Network, right now, their big focus is on fisheries and all of the fish processing companies, et cetera, up and down the coast that serve coastal communities that have been impacted by numerous things, climate change, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really good forum, the Coastal Community Network, and I am honored to be the representative on it.
Thank you very much. Any further question, Director Abram?
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Anyone opposed to the report?
No.
Seeing none, carried.
I think we had Council Director Cornfield wanting
Sorry.
to.
Sorry, Director Cornfield, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay, thank you. The Coastal Communities Network used to be a very effective and very large organization that was made up of all of the coastal communities. What's basically happening now, Jim?
Okay, well, what's happening now is that it originally started with Pat Carney and John Duncan and myself and a couple others to, it was called the Coastal Parliamentarians Network. And that went along quite well with quite a few people, probably a few dozen coastal parliamentarians, being local government and provincial and federal people. And they advocated for any coastal community issue to whatever government needed to be advocated to. Okay, that eventually evolved into what was called the Coastal Community Network. Pat Carney eventually backed out of it just because of other things that she had to do. And it continued on for many years as just the Coastal Community Network, advocating for coastal community issues, whatever they were. And it included any coastal community that wanted to join. Some coastal communities felt that the cost of joining was excessive, and it was fairly high. I think it was about $6,000 a year at that time. And it died off in the last, I don't know, 10 years ago, it died off. And then Des Nobles, who is the chair right now, tried to revive it, and he did. And he got members from different local governments, whether they be regional or cities, to come together and see if there was a possibility of doing this. There was, we did it, and they knocked the heck out of the joining fee. It's like $300 a year for a member, and anyone can join. Any local government representative can appoint a member to this group, and I was appointed for the SRD. It's still a fairly small group, and this year they have decided to try and get even more people because of COVID causing, financial concerns, to eliminate the cost of membership. So there's no cost to join. If somebody wants to join, they can join. And the Coastal Community Network takes on, will look at any issue that is brought forward to them that affects our coastal communities.
Okay.
So,
and yeah, I can remember. I can
that's
remember.
my blurb.
Good.
Okay.
I can remember when we used to have the AGMs and other meetings in association with ABICC and UBCM.
Yep, that's correct.
And I guess given the issues facing us regarding aquaculture and the wild fisheries, wild salmon issue, along with a number of other things, whether it's regulating season closures that had big impact on tourism. Is this, maybe I was just hoping we'd get some discussion on whether or not this would be a good vehicle to try and galvanize to deal with some of those other issues, like the aquaculture issue.
Any issue you would like brought forward as a Strathcona Regional District issue, feel free to pass it on through me, and I will bring it to their attention in writing as something to be considered. The fisheries issue has been ongoing for the last couple of years, way before any of this recent aquaculture stuff came up. So they are basically just trying to finish up by getting this letter to all of the local governments, to get them to all of the governments. They've advocated for a provincial fisheries minister, which they are pretty close to getting, I believe, and an official minister. And the capacity is, it's basically run by the directors. We don't have any staff. So, we're doing the work, and it's all done via Zoom or conference call. It's a very time-consuming and intensive job working on this committee, but I think it's very worthwhile. And they have, with Des Noble in the chair, I don't know if most of you probably know Des, that are connected with coastal communities. He's an electoral area director for Skeena Queen Charlotte, I believe. Lives just outside of Prince Rupert.
Sorry.
Been a commercial fisherman forever, and he is...
Director Abram, we understand. I'm looking at the time. We've got 2 more meetings today. We've got to move on.
I was expecting a very detailed answer.
Yeah, thank you. Seeing no other questions, is anyone opposed to the report? Seeing none, thank you, it's carried. On the management report, anything to add? I don't see anything. Under new business, federal closure fish farms, motion to receive.
Mr. Chair, I've sent the resolution in writing to Edith and the chair, and there it is.
Okay, Edith, can you make it just a little bigger? Okay. So Directors Lee motioned the SRD right to the Prime Minister of Canada.
And the Federal Fisheries Minister.
Stop scrolling it.
If you quit scrolling, I could read it.
There we go.
So can everybody else then.
Why there's been no
Okay, the
consultation.
SRD right at Prime Minister of Canada, Federal Fisheries Minister to inquire why there has been no consultation with the SRD, which is responsible for zoning in our local communities and which decides location, zoning, and conditions of use of both the shellfish, finfish aquaculture in our region, and why our expertise has been ignored. One of the concerns in the proposal is closing numerous of fish farms without consultation with all of our local communities could eliminate up to 1,500 direct jobs.
Direct and indirect.
With further harm to struggling economy in Northern Vancouver Island. Moved by Director Lee. Do I have a seconder?
You already did.
Director Cornfield, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Question, Director Cornfield.
So I would like to move a minor amendment to this one where it says there's a no consultation. Oh, maybe I've got it. Maybe I just misread it while it was getting scrolled there. I was going to ask that.
It does state that there's no consultation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the issue that I keep harping on is the federal government does not recognize local government as a level of government. And so when we talk about communities, that doesn't mean local governments. That means communities. So if they talk to a few people in town or a couple of organizations, they've done their community consultation. And I think it's really important to stress the local government with our Strathcona Regional District as the local government that is responsible for zoning in our communities. And I think that is really important because until they do recognize us, they just ignore us. And that's what's led to this latest decision, which is based on quote, quote, social license, not on science and not informed. And the ministry even admits it. Yeah. And so I think I'm glad Director Lee brought this one up. So yeah, no changes.
Okay, thank you. Director Abram, do you have a quick comment?
Yes, I'd like to reinforce what Director Cornfield just said. Communities does not equal local government. Absolutely. They fight this at every table I'm on. That they continually call us communities. The communities are everybody. The local government is specific. And we have the legislative authority to do the zoning. The second point was, I think you should, Brenda, you should eliminate the reference to shellfish. This does not affect shellfish in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, point taken out. I would like to withdraw the reference to shellfish. I was just saying that we are responsible for zoning all of those aquaculture activities, both shellfish and finfish. So I would like the federal government to consult with our regional district, since we have all these communities under our care, basically, regarding land use decisions, and we need them to listen to us.
Okay, and so I'm going to take a friendly amendment. Do you want the shellfish?
You can take that out, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The Dr. use Davis, of finfish.
Okay, Dr. Davis, do you have a question?
Yeah, I understand the intent of the motion. My question is, are they actually trying to close these, or are they trying to move them onto land? Like, what was the actual decision from them?
To close.
To close, period.
Just close.
Yeah.
With no option of moving to land-based.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Could I?
No, hang on. Director Evans, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I fully support this. Thank you, Director Lear, for bringing this forward, and appreciate that we've removed shellfish as well. It was going to be one of my comments. But what I think is really critical is that we include a copy to our MP and our MLA on this correspondence. I've been very concerned that we have not had the type of interaction in the beginning with this. And I just think because there now has been some initiated discussion, that we make sure that we include and copy this to, again, our regional representatives, to ensure not only that we are keeping them informed, but also that we are holding them accountable to be able to respond to the information that we're bringing forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, having heard that, I would welcome a friendly amendment to add at the end of the motion, and further that our North Island NDP and our North Island MLA and NDP and MP, pardon me, be
included,
copied on this motion.
Okay. Do I have a seconder on that? Sorry, we've already got a motion on the floor. Yeah. Okay, on any other discussion?
Yes,
and I would like to just speak in favor of the motion a little further, to say that whether or not you're in favor of these particular fish farms that they're eliminating, the motion and the crux of it is that we were not consulted.
Yes.
And we need to be consulted, and we need to tell them, so this doesn't keep happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are out there, their lives are being decimated, and they have no input into this decision that's happening right now. Our MP is talking to the federal fisheries minister right now, and I'm afraid that we're not going to get the point of view of the local communities across to the minister. Very afraid of that, and because it does affect a lot of people.
Okay, thank you. So Director Colburn's asked to read the motion again before a question. So
I did have a question too, Mr. Chair.
Director Abram, quickly, please. I'm looking at the time. We have
yes,
two more
I know.
meetings.
Okay. Director Davis asked the question about is it just to close, and I believe somebody said yes,
Okay.
it's just to
Get
close.
on with your question, please, Director
The
Abram.
question, the comment is, it is to remove them from the water. It does include a transition plan, supposedly, that will happen. Okay, so there is provision for something else. I don't know what.
Okay.
But just saying, it's not cut and dried.
Thank you.
I have my hand up.
Director Cornfield.
Very, very quickly. Director Lee said it, that they're not consulting with local government, and we're not really clear on that. And I would like to see whatever letter goes off being very, very clear that they did not have any dialogue with any local government, whether it's cities or the regional district. And the impacts of this decision are huge. And I think we need to stress the fact that local government is the voice of the local communities. And I think in the letter, I'll leave it up to you guys, whoever's writing it, Brad, but I would definitely stress that we need to stress that fact.
Yeah, I made a note on that.
Yeah, and I know there's other local governments that have been meeting and hammering it out. So I'll reread the motion as it is, and then, add a little bit. So that the SRD read to the Prime Minister of Canada, Federal federal minister to inquire why there was no consultation with the Strathcona Regional District, which is responsible for zoning in our local communities and which decides location, zoning, and conditions of the use of fish aquaculture in our region, and why our expertise has been ignored. One of the concerns is the proposal to close numerous fish farms without consultation with our local communities could eliminate up to 1,500 direct and indirect jobs and further harm the struggling economy of the North Island, and further that the MLA and the MP be copied on this motion. Is everybody okay with the motion?
Question.
Questions been called? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
No addendum. Item T, closed session. The report to Chief Officer we received.
So moved.
Second. Director Adams, thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, that closed meeting be held following the termination of the public meeting to consider matters deemed to fall within the parameters of sections 91 F, G, L, K, and O, and 90 F2A, B of the community charter. Director Kerr and Director Colburn, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, carried. Motion to terminate.
So moved.
So the invites have been sent out, so we'll rejoin the closed session meeting.
Yep. Anyone opposed? Carried.